Awesome. Well, we are live with Sponsorship Morning Coffee. Really excited to have David Anderson from Falcon Sports Properties out in Bowling Green, Kentucky. On that end, David, thanks so much for joining the show this morning. Really excited to dive in with you on a few things just because you're out there in the trenches. But, we'll start off as we always do. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into sponsorship.
Yeah, so actually we're in Bowling Green, Ohio. So there's
Ohio.
two. That's all right. There's two of us. So they're the other Bowling Green, as we say up here. So
nice.
but
As a West Coaster, California, Oregon, not really been to most of the Midwest. I apologize for the Midwest.
No worries. Yeah, there's the Western Kentucky University down there in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They're also with us, but. Yeah,
Gotcha.
So Dave Anderson, I'm what they kind of call an unconventional sales guy, kind of coming into this world a little different. So came up to Bowling Green from Findlay, which was just 20 minutes south of home, and was a diver. Started off in diving at the university and got my degree in gerontology. So I'm a study of the elderly. I'm actually had a licensed nursing home administration license for a while, and so got out, wanted to own my own business before I was 30. So I went to work for a mortgage company, bought the company when I was 28 years old, ran it completely into the ground as quick as I could. So didn't really quite know what I was doing, but I met my goal of owning a business. And then I actually stayed in that world for almost 20 years, almost 21 years, doing mortgages. And got the opportunity from our athletic director at BGSU, called me and said that position was open. And of course, he wasn't the one that made the hire. It was Learfield IMG down in Dallas. And they called and said, hey, your athletic director is interested in you. And I got in mostly because of my connections in town. We're a very small town up here in Northwest Ohio. We're about 12 to 13,000 people is all in our town. Once campus is in, we're about 30,000. So campus doubles our population. So you stay in this town long enough, you get to meet enough people, and you get to run into enough people in businesses and stuff like that. So they gave me the opportunity and the shot to jump in and play in this arena in November of 18. So I'm still kind of new to the game, but absolutely loving what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've written about this before. There's sports blinders, just meaning if you grow, and I've done it as well. I got my MBA, went right into sports, and I had sports blinders, meaning I had always thought this was the way to do it. This is how sports sales is done. This is how sponsorship is done. And now I love it when I see people who have come from kind of a different industry than the sports industry, because you're going to be able to bring so many new ideas. I assume, just being in the community and understanding as a business owner, that kind of really changed your perspective as far as what sponsors are really looking for, when paying and buying a sponsorship. Is that right? Was there a pretty good, hey, what I'm really good at is I understand what businesses are looking for, because I used to be on the other side of the table.
It's exactly what it was. Yeah, I know how I wanted to be sold. And so I wanted to take some of those ideas and say, okay, I'm not your hey shooter guy. That's not my sales style. I'm the kind of guy that's going to get to know you and your family, know what your likes are, your dislikes are. And I do it completely, maybe unconventional than other guys do it. So far, I think I've had some success. I feel pretty good about where our property is right now. We're a small team of 3. Came in and there was nobody here except for a coordinator. Had to hire an MBD right out of the gate, and took a guy and took a chance on us from Indiana. Was in ticket sales for 3 years. Brought him over, and but you're exactly right. It was one of those things where I know when people came into our, where I worked and said, hey, would you sponsor this, or would you participate in this fundraiser, or would you do this? And I knew what I was looking for. And so I took a lot of those ideas and just said, here's what I'm going to do. This is the way I feel that people want to be sold. You have to adjust every single client that you meet. You can't sell everybody the same and go in with the same attitude to every single client. So you really got to adjust on the fly. And I think that's something with my mortgage background. Every single deal was different. every time I sell somebody, it's different. And so I understand that that change has got to be there between every single client. So for me, I think the adjustment over, you know, the guy that hired me said something that kind of stuck with me is I went down and had to do a sales pitch to them on Ace Hardware, a 15-minute pitch, and they gave me 48 hours. They told me on Friday that I was going to do this pitch, and they put me on a plane on Monday morning, flew me to Dallas, and said, sell us on Ace Hardware. You got 15 minutes. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I was like, okay, here we go. So I went in there and I felt like I just knocked it out of the road, just killed it. Right. So afterwards, and he said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an A+ for owning this room and pretending like you knew what the heck you were talking about, but you completely failed on content. Like you missed everything. He said, but I can teach you that. I can't teach you how to own the room and how to connect with people. I knew nobody in that room when I walked out of there, or when I walked in there, not a single person. I walked in there completely blind, and 6 people sitting in this room. Here I am, flying all the way to Dallas at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in a conference room at 11:30, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. I've been up since 5:30, and I walk in, and I just said to these guys, and he's like, man, you talked to us like you knew us for a year, and I felt very comfortable with you coming in and selling me. But what you sold me was a complete garbage fire. He said it was you completely missed everything. But I'll teach you that. So since then, I've kind of kept that attitude of I can learn the content and I can learn what I'm selling. I can't teach you the relationships, and those are the things I think that I've had very good success with. Because in Bowling Green, I've been here since 1992. 28 years I've been in town. I know everybody, and I think people trust me and feel comfortable when I'm coming into their place.
Yeah, and I think, for smaller communities, that's so important. And, really the way you learn relationship building is just by doing. I think a lot of sales reps, as they're coming into sponsorship or whatever it is, they're like, oh, well, if I read this book on psychology of how to be persuasive in the room and I do these little tips, I'll be fine. I was terrible when I first started at sales and relationship building, and being that awkward person standing in the corner waiting for the manager at the Jamba Juice to then talk to him and say, here's our signage, and I think it's just at bats, right? It's how many chances you get to say, you know what, this really worked toward building that relationship, getting to know their families, asking about their kids and remembering that stuff. That's where you kind of get that ability to be able to then fly to Dallas, have no idea what sports sponsorship offers, and say, hey, look, I don't really know what I'm selling here, but I'll sell you on it, and I'll get you sold. And I think at bats are so important on that end. So obviously, elephant in the room, and it's all out there in sponsorship. Sports are shut down. We sell sponsorship on live games. Hopefully we've built enough digital kind of leverage to be able to keep fans happy. And I've loved the different kind of creativity that teams have put out there. But, out there as you're chatting with partners, what's that like number one struggle that you're having? And then also like, what are they struggling with in order to say, hey, I want to keep sponsoring you?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The big thing that I think we're all running into is the objective, or the objection to not wanting to, all of our partners have said we want to come back, right? We don't have a lot of our partners that say we're not interested in our partnership. They understand the importance of partnering with BGSU Athletics. They understand our brand. They understand our peekaboo. They understand all of that stuff. I think the biggest thing that we're hearing is, are you going to have football? And so kind of the stance that we've taken in the last week, our team at FSP is, let's assume that everything is going to be normal, right? Let's assume that we're going to have sports. Let's get everything lined up. And so many of these contracts, and you understand that, have protections for the client, the force majeures and the everything else that comes with it. So I think it's just making sure that our clients feel, number one, comfortable with the process, and number two, comfortable with their business. You don't want, the hard part is, and you've talked about this before, is restaurant partners are just getting slammed right now. Hotel partners are getting slammed right now. When you're 97% vacancy in a hotel here in town, and restaurant businesses go from 42 staff to 21 staff. those are the things that, the empathy was the number one thing that we did in the first 2 weeks, right? What can we do to help you? First off, how's your family? How are you doing? Those are the things I think that we kind of came in. Then the second week was, starting to kind of scratch the surface, taking the temperature. But that's when we started to see the little bit of the pushback was, hey, listen, that's, we're not really ready to do that. So, my boss kind of came up with a good word that we kind of used to help us sell a little bit is, what are the chances or what is the wish or the opportunity that maybe we can talk to you in the next 2 weeks? So we've kind of put a timeline on it that we're going to be able to talk to the client. They know the timeline as well. And if you tell me right up front, dude, I can't talk to you for 6 months from now, or 5, I understand. I know where you stand now. But I think for us, it was putting that feeler out there first to say, what do you think the opportunity of us talking in the next 2 weeks is? I think it's probably pretty good. Why don't you check back with me in a week and a half? Let's, get something on the books. So at that point, it was for our team, it was, what are the little wins that we're going to get along the way? Is it a $2,000 restaurant contract? Is it a $100,000 hospital contract? Whatever those things might be. For us, it was just give us a win, and we got to the point, Nick, where we weren't even afraid to ask for a win. Like we went to one of our bigger partners and said, look, you're up for renewal. Our team needs a win right now. We know that we feel like you're going to come back next year. I think you're going to come back next year. Why don't we just get this thing on paper? We've gone over it before all of this stuff even happened. Let's get it signed. Let's get it in. Let's get our team motivated again, and let us get a win with you, with your partnership back with BGSU Athletics. If sports doesn't happen, if something happens in the fall, where let's reevaluate it then. But let's get a win in for our department. Let's get a win in for your corporation as well, showing BGSU Athletics your commitment again next year for us, even if we don't know what's going to happen, And so for us, it was just not being afraid to ask for a win. But I think the biggest hurdle that we've hit, honestly, is the timing of everything, with people saying, I want to come back. But I need to know, is football going to be there or not? And I think you have to be honest with the customer and say, we don't know. We don't know that. And I would love to tell you, yeah, it's going to be back. We're going to be fine. But I think for us, the biggest thing that we've done is just said, listen, let's anticipate that football is going to come back. Or let's say football is going to be back. Would that make you sign the contract, or would that make you come back or renew with us knowing that football is going to come back? Yeah. Okay, well then let's play like football is going to be playing on time. If it doesn't, we'll revisit it then. So, and I think a big thing that we're seeing too is, and you've been in this business too, that you understand, and I'm still learning this, is, man, people want sports. They need sports back right now more than ever, right? So when this opens back up, what's the first thing people are going to do? I want sports on TV. I want to go to a live sport. I want to do something. So for us, it's talking to that customer and saying, you don't want to lose this inventory that you've had with us for the last year or 2 years. Let's get it lined up. So sports are going to go gangbusters. We heard yesterday that the Army Navy game after the 9/11 in 2003, whenever that was, 2001, whatever it was, the Army Navy game they were the two essentially worst teams in college football that year after the 9/11. It was the most watched football game all year that year, because of people wanted sports after 9/11. So that's what we're kind of looking at it as. It doesn't matter if I'm watching the Tetris World Championships or a college football game. I want to see something happen, right? So for us, it's getting those guys in line. And I think that's been a big point for us too, is saying, listen, we know that things are tough right now. And we know that, financially you're struggling right now, and being empathetic to that. But when this comes back, don't you want to be on the front lines of what's going to happen in sports? And people are like, yeah, I want to be. And it's not, I'm not selling you on anything. I'm telling you the facts. Like, just, I'm not asking you to buy into this. I'm just telling you, this is going to happen. We're going to come back. What it looks like, nobody knows, but why not be on the front end of that?
Yeah, no, and I love that. The first thing I love the system is the 2 weeks thing, right? You're not going to them and saying, hey, here's the $50,000 deal that, in January, you absolutely were in on. You ready to ink that now? Because of course, if you're a restaurant partner, you're like, man, I'm just trying to make sure I don't furlough any more staff. I'm not going to
Yeah.
drop $50,000. But that 2 weeks, right? It's a good place to be, just to follow up, set a follow up timeline, so you're not just, hey, just checking in, just checking in. And so much, I mean, today so much changes in 2 weeks. Maybe that employer gets, a payroll protection plan loan that helps them grow. Maybe, and to be honest, maybe the restaurant wakes up and says, well, Bowling Green has like 10, 15, 30,000 followers on Instagram, all in this community. We should probably be hitting them up and doing that. So I think that's the key, is, keeping them informed. And then I love the piece on, hey, sports are coming back, because I mean, they are. And to be honest, we don't know when, but it's just an opportunity, right? It's, hey, look, you've been a valuable customer to us. I want to make sure you don't miss out on this. Let's get the contract signed. We can work out the details after that. But how can we help? And then from there, let's get you on board. And I think, this really proves, there was so much in that. This really proves the relationship you have with your clients, because if it was just transactional and you came to them and said, hey, I'm going to be honest with you, like, we need to win. We need people to understand that, Bowling Green athletics is something that, is worth sponsoring right now, even in all of this. The amount of just relationship that builds with your client, you're both in this together. You're not coming in and saying, hey, we're doing great, and we're doing awesome. You're saying, hey, look, we're struggling too. I'm trying to help here. Let's make it work and structure it, but can we just re-sign this so that we can go post that out there? That relationship you're going to build with that, that sponsor is just, hey, look, I just want to thank you. Times were so tough. That really helped us out, and built that relationship. So much in there, packaged in there, just really to help. And I think the biggest thing right now is, from what I'm hearing in the industry, is just not necessarily knowing fully what to do, right? You don't want to, everybody's telling you don't sell, and that's couldn't be farther from the truth. Of course, you shouldn't just be hounding and saying, are you interested in sponsorship? Are you interested in sponsorship? You should be going in and saying, like, look, I have something that's valuable specifically right now. Can we help you? But I'm worried that, if you're not doing this and you're kind of just sitting back and saying, we're gonna see what happens, as we chatted about right before we got on, brands decide, am I gonna buy Facebook ads or am I gonna buy this sponsorship? And you have to be able to convince them, because, to be honest, once they learn Facebook ads and get comfortable with that, it's very hard to kind of switch them and switch their dollars off. So I think one thing that we do have in sponsorship is just that relationship, the excitement of sports, and checking in there. No Facebook ad manager is going to call you up when there's a pandemic and say, hey, how are you? Can I help? Right? Probably very few agencies are going to fully do that as well, without the, well, hey, by the way, you should be spending on this. So I think that's awesome. One program you guys have that's worked really well, and we were just chatting, got picked up by some news organizations, and we were saying, in sponsorship, that's always just like the golden egg of, you have a campaign and then it gets some media attention and you can go back to your partner. But you started this kind of Meals for Heroes program. Can you chat a little bit about that and kind of what prompted that, getting that together?
Yeah. So, I've kind of learned that stealing is the best form of flattery, right? So Tulsa did this a couple of weeks back, and they had some pretty good success with it. So we kind of tweaked it a bit, and we did it over a 3-week period. And what we did is, we worked with our partners at FIVO, and so what we're doing with it is a $6 donation. You can go to our website, and then it's a $6 donation to make a donation to provide a meal for a frontline worker. And what we did is we picked 3 partners that were actually up for renewal this year that are kind of on the fence. And so this is kind of a bonus package for them, if you will. We're kind of at the end of the year where there's not a lot going on. Northwest Ohio, baseball and softball are not huge sports for us at BGSU, for attendance and things like that. So we don't have a lot of what they were calling make goods for the end of this year. Unfortunately, our hockey and our basketball teams were on a really good run before all this stuff kind of happened. But so we didn't have a ton of make goods, but we had some partners that, we knew, especially restaurant, that was going to be tough to get them to come back. So what we did is, we reached out to the 3 partners and we said to them, hey, listen, we're thinking about doing this Meals for Heroes thing. Would you guys be on board? And what we're looking to do is $6 donation. And the way we work is $1 goes to FIVO to help offset the cost. Then $5 is going directly to the restaurant. And what we did is just got their ACH information, and then it's going directly to them. So we're not involved in any of the money information or any of that stuff. So it's going directly through FIVO. They're depositing the money every 2 days into the account. And we're running it at a week at a time campaign. So we started this campaign on Monday with one of our little pizza shops here that's up for renewal. Kind of a smaller partnership from him last year, around $3,000. Well, in the first 2 days, we've already made the $3,000 back. So it's been great for us. We're at 600 meals in basically 48 hours. We started at 10:30 on Monday, and this morning about 10:15, we were at just at 600 meals. So it's taken off for us. And then what we did is this first week, all the meals will go to the hospital and nursing home workers. The second week, new partner, get somebody else involved, new frontline workers. So second week's another small restaurant in town. Those funds are going to go to him, and then they're going to provide for police and fire. And don't forget your university police as well. So we're also giving to our university police. Week 3 is kind of a bigger chain restaurant for us, but also up for renewal. They kind of came on 1 year with us as a trial, kind of liked us. So we're kind of giving them a little, little rope here to help, drag them back in for us with another couple years, maybe get a multi-year out of them. And then that's actually going to our grocery store workers. And all 3 of our grocery stores in town are also partners. So it actually crosses partner with partner, which is even better. We kind of ran this. We have about 24,000 followers on our Twitter account through athletics. Pushed it out through there. And of course, every news media outlet in Northwest Ohio follows your athletic departments. So they picked it up. And yesterday I did a quick, 15-minute spot on the news, which of course they cut down to about 30 seconds. So we actually filmed outside of one of the partners' restaurants, talked about the program. We were kind of stuck at about 515, 520 meals last night before that ran. After last night when it ran, we woke up this morning, we had 80 new meals come in this morning. Nice. So like you said, that golden nugget, that golden egg of getting media just to find you, and you're not really searching them out, that's been huge for us. So now we're expecting the other 2 news media outlets and then the local newspapers to pick it up as well, which is great, because what's going to happen is you get this mad rush week 1 of people wanting to donate. The reason why we put our graphic out like we did is it's a calendar. So if you really want to donate to the fire department, you're going to wait till week 2 to donate. So we didn't want everything to come out of the gate at first and everybody donate week 1 and then have this giant drop off for weeks 2 and 3. So we made sure that everybody understood that there is, stuff out there for all 3 weeks. Because otherwise, if we would have pushed graphics that just were like week 1, and then you don't know what's going on week 2 or week 3, people are going to donate week 1, and then you got nothing for your other partners the other weeks 2 and 3. So that was something that that our coordinator and our MBD kind of came up with, is let's put a calendar out. And then our graphics department on campus kind of came up with that, and we pushed it, and it's just been killing it. We're having a blast with it.
Yeah, no. One thing that I love, and we chatted about this beforehand, was just trackability.
Oh yeah.
The ability that, a sponsor's coming up for renewal, they're kind of like, especially in times like this, if they're a first-year partner, like, we had a good run, but what our football game's coming back, and you can just come to them and say, hey, look, we're doing this program. It's going to be great community publicity for you all. It's going to be great to tap into, the donation. But let's be honest, this is a transaction. Somebody's buying a meal and helping support a local business that really, really needs it right now. And not, the making up what they've already invested and showing the return just on that side is great. I think the bigger thing is you came through for them trackably in what's probably one of the worst times since the restaurant has been opened. Yeah. And drove sales at the right time. It's, a lot of times in sponsorship, we talk about value. There's definitely a timing to value. If you're bringing value when only things are good, and then when they need you most, you can't bring value, that's that's not going to be as strong as, hey, we're going to bring it right now. So I love the trackability side of that, and I like the kind of spacing of a couple of weeks on that.
It's a
For
feel good
you all,
story, you know, and
yeah,
that's the thing is anytime you can tug on the, I don't want to say tug on the heartstrings, but it's like you said, is everybody kind of came out the first 1, 2, 3 weeks that everybody's been at home. We got to support the restaurants. Well, then what happened? You know, we had this huge drop off and nobody was supporting the restaurants anymore. And like you said, I think we came in at a good time when the restaurants were like, oh crap, you know, I haven't gotten my stimulus check yet. I can't, you know, I don't know if I'm going to keep my doors open. This is a shot in the arm that if I can give this restaurant $3,000 in a week, that's probably more than they've done in the last 2 weeks combined. You know, and I'm able to pump money into their, you know, to keep them operating, keep guys with their jobs, keep, you know, things going. And then on the other side, like you said, they're getting that community kickback to show how, you know, such a good thing that you're doing, you know, and our hope is, and this was something that we didn't really think about until later is our hope is by doing this, now the hospital workers are going to go buy meals from
yes,
from our partner as well. So this reverse of saying, okay, they came through for us when all of this stunk and we're sitting behind these masks and shields and, you know, working with these sick patients, and they brought us lunch, man. That was really cool. I'm going to go buy from them because they
yes.
supported me in this time. So that was the other hope is now it's going to kick back more than just the 3,000 or 4,000 that we gave you from the campaign. There's another trackability there of saying, okay, look, I worked at the hospital. Thank you so much for what you did for us. I'm buying pizza and breadsticks from you, you know, for my family tonight or whatever it is. So
100%. And it may be a terrible sync up there, but in World War II, my grandpa used to always tell me the hardest thing being enlisted was not to become a smoker, because the cigarette brands would give you free cigarettes.
yep.
And that's how a lot of, I'm a Lucky Strike guy because that's what I was given in
Yeah,
the Army, right?
exactly.
So, that's, again, maybe not the greatest analogy, but same thing, right? You're basically, and I think, psychologically, the best thing I love about that too is sometimes we have an assumption that, like, oh, well, people won't, donate to this or do this program because they're already struggling themselves.
Hmm.
There's, no matter what community, there's a breakdown.
Yep.
There's the people who are still getting a paycheck and, still have a job, and there's people who aren't. And, for me, luckily for Squad, we're still doing a paycheck. What I'm doing is, there's a coffee shop. I maybe went once a week to get coffee. I'm going every day.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
that's my way in tipping 20, 30%. And that's my way of saying, like, look, I don't want you to go under. I understand that I don't want you to furlough this guy who's at the front of it. For lunch, I went to a Mexican restaurant and that's nearby. And the guy literally said, man, we've been so slow and we can't get people coming in. So then I went back for dinner and spent another
Yeah.
$40, right? So I
Yep.
think, psychologically, your fans aren't going to be out there buying iPods or, buying laptops. But when it's a meal like this, especially with how that industry is hurting, you can really dive into it and say, look, I'm giving you the opportunity, if you do have a job, to be able to go and give back. And it's not giving back necessarily the Bowling Green, although it is because they're your partner. It's giving back to somebody who's hurting the most. And I'm just helping facilitate that, again, with what I think a lot of schools underestimate is how powerful your social media following is.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, every restaurant right now wishes they had 30,000 people on Instagram that they could Instagram their menu items out to.
Hmm.
And that's something that you have, whether it's all local or not, you can immediately tap into that. And, and that just goes back to, that's where you all posted it, pushed it. And then a news organization picked it up and grew even from there. But I think, that's the key thing is your fans do want to give back. If you can just funnel where they're giving back to which restaurants, based on their fandom and that they're a supporter of a sports team that they love, that's really the sponsorship mojo that comes into effect on that end.
Yeah, I think something that Nate Felver, our MBD, he kind of came up with, and I'm sure it's something that it was just an oversight by me, and something that's a great idea, as I thought, is he went back through all of his partners and started following them on Twitter,
Yep.
following them on Facebook, because right now that's where you're getting most of your information, right? So everything's social. So he went back, followed every one of his partners, and then he's either retweeting their stuff to help more, more pushes for them, whatever it might be, but just going on because that's where he's getting his information from. Like,
Yes.
hey, did you know that so-and-so is doing this at the, at the nail salon, or that they're doing this at whatever. And those are kind of little things like that, I didn't really think of that. And I went on and did that. And if I can, help push their stuff out for them, I may not have a gabillion followers on Twitter personally, but guess what? BGSU Athletics is picking up my Twitter, and now they're retweeting it at 24,000 people. So it's growing it through that. And I think that's where I asked you the question a week or so ago, how do I get more followers on Instagram, Twitter, things like that? And we've been trying to implement some of those things, and it's nuts. We're seeing that grow, which has been great. That just taking those tips from you and implementing them on our team it's been a huge success. So, but that's a neat thing to do.
And think about that. That costs you nothing.
Yeah,
that costs you you're binging, whatever show on Netflix, and you have a list of your sponsors, and you could even put your sponsors into a Twitter list. So as you're scrolling, if you're it costs you 2 seconds to retweet a partner.
Yeah.
But think about the relationship that helps build, right? And of course, we don't want to be salesy about it. We don't want to then follow up with the email the next day and say, hey, by the way, I retweeted your stuff.
Yeah.
I hope you signed this renewal. But I mean, those tiny little things in sales right now are absolutely crucial. They, as crazy as it sounds, that could be the difference between them re-signing and them not, right?
Yep.
Is if everything's even with how they're trying to spend their dollars. I mean, we're human. Hey, I really, really like the fact that Nate keeps retweeting our stuff. He doesn't have to do that. Maybe he's doing it to get us to renew, but he's never asked for a dime to do that. And that little thing can easily jump you for consideration at this time on that end.
Especially like when it comes, like you said, when it comes to renewal time, and that partner is getting pulled 50 different directions from 50 different people in town. But guess what? BGSU did that one extra thing that we didn't ask them to do. And it brought us in the business. And, we're doing now, we're pushing out Friday specials for one of our restaurant partners. And he's sending us the specials on Friday afternoon. I sent him out just as a whim. He's like, hey, he's an older gentleman, owns a restaurant, he's been around, doesn't have Twitter, doesn't have any of that stuff. So I said, yeah, go ahead and send it to me. I'll send it out. So he took some pictures on his phone, which were, junk photos or whatever, put them on Twitter. Athletics redoes it. He said, I ran out of specials on Friday and Saturday night. Thank you.
And that's the again, it's like, what is that? What does that take for you? There doesn't have to be an immaculate campaign. If you have the tools, and I've chatted with some of our partners at Squad on this. A scratch and win to push out an offer on Instagram will absolutely kill.
Awesome.
But I'll tell them straight out, do you have to do that? Absolutely not. If you don't have the budget and nobody's spending, take a picture of their menu item, push it out there. And again, like in sports, we are influencers.
Yeah.
What we say pushes our fans to make that purchase. And again, like that consideration, as you said, that easy, take you no time. I mean, that is prospecting. I mean, to be honest right now, unless you have a real big reason to reach out, which I do still think like, hey, you should be reaching out, but unless you have a real good reason to reach out, that's your prospecting today. If you're prospecting today, you're sharing partner items on Twitter, expecting nothing back, not following up with an email that says, hey, I retweeted this, can we get on a call? Just doing that, because amazingly, you'll start to see like literally, just that anecdotal, hey, we sold out of our Friday special, and last Friday we could barely sell any. Right. I'm assuming that's, with your help. That's
we don't know, but we're open.
And that's what I always come back to, front office sports. We do some paid work with them. And the way they got me on as a small business and a small startup was just, I was like, hey, I'm not really sure how successful email newsletter would work. And they're like, hey, that's great. That's awesome. Think about it and we'll get back to you. And then out of nowhere, they put one of our LinkedIn posts in a newsletter, and I got like 6 inbounds. And, immediately, I literally called them immediately after and just said, that was awesome. Thanks so much. Let's do a package, right? Because you've proven your worth. And, they didn't have to hound me on the sale or try and convince me. It's just, hey, here's this freebie. takes me no time, took them no time to put it in the newsletter to get it going. So I think, you know, touching on a great point here is, I mean, your prospecting today should start with social.
Yep.
Retweeting your current partners if they're up for renewal, retweeting any other partners who you've tried to sign or have talked to. On LinkedIn, sharing stuff, you know, you just personally, I think that that's the prospecting today. And then, you know, and then if it really makes sense, hey, I saw you had a Friday special. I think we could, you know, it seems like you haven't laid off any of your employees. Do you have any money to spend? We can really boost this, you know, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, you know, down the road on that end. So that's awesome. That's a great nugget for everybody.
Well, and I think the other thing too is, like you've said this since the beginning, since I've been, you know, following and listening to you, we're building inventory right now, if nothing else. We're having to be creative with our minds and do something different to get to our partners now. You know, we'll be the first to admit we were horrible at digital at BG. Horrible. You know, we were the, hey, we can sell you this A-frame and this, you know, this billboard or whatever it is. That's what we sold because it was easy. You know, digital, you have to be creative. You have to figure out something that is different than nobody else is doing. And I'll share another nugget with you in a second, but that's something that, you know, but for us right now, we're saying, you know, Nate and I have been taking notes saying, dude, we can sell this next time. When we go to our partner, it's trackable. We can show you the impressions we got. We can show you the sales it brought, and we can show you that we can sell the crap out of this next time to somebody as an upsell or as something else that we're giving as a bonus now, which is kind of hard because they're like, well, you did it for free before. Yeah, we did. But at the time, we're trying to help you stay, you know, we wanted to keep our partnership alive and keep your doors open and help promote you in any way that we could, because we're, you know, we wanted to be good stewards of our business. And now it's like, yeah, we've got these items that, you know, all this social stuff that we could sell now. We're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
So. And I love that. That's, I mean, I was pushing that before this, and just because, again, I worked in digital ad sales, and then when I went back to selling, like, you know, those paper travel guides, I would, and we talked about this before we got on, I would get on the phone and I'd be selling a restaurant listing and a travel guide. and they would just be like, you know what, we get like a 5x return on Facebook ads. How do you guys track this? In my head, I'm thinking, well, you got me there. Like, my manager used to get mad at me because I'd go through the list and I'd be like, well, they run Facebook ads. And then she would be like, well, why don't they also do print? And my answer was, look, I used to work. I used to sell these.
I know.
They're just not a better product. They're for specific restaurants. But if somebody tells me, hey, I'm running Facebook ads, to be honest, a sign can't hold up to that because they're used to trackability and return. Not saying signage doesn't have its place, but you know, the way you overcome that is you basically build the same aspects and attributes that they have. And that's what I love about, you know, as terrible as this pandemic is, especially for sports and people are being furloughed, this hopefully creates a resurgence of, you know, why can't we keep doing these items during the season and double our inventory? And this is almost just a great switch that, you know, I had wanted to come a little bit early, and some of the teams that had been switching had been seeing the value, but now it's just, you have to. There's no live games, so, you know, nobody's buying a sign right now. So
yeah, for sure.
You know, going to, and this is what I've asked, you know, Ben and a few of the other people who've been on. I can't imagine coming out of college, working for 6 years, trying to get into sports. And then this happened where, you know, people are being furloughed, and there's no job openings coming up. You know, especially as somebody who comes from outside of sports recently and just jumped back in, you know, what advice do you have anybody who's just graduating or trying to make that transition into sports to just getting your foot in the door and getting your name in the ring?
I mean, big thing is, don't be afraid to intern. I know a lot of times you're looking for paid internships, you're looking for some money, you're looking, you know, most college teams, most pro teams, everything, that once this kind of comes back, they're always going to be looking for some help. You know, if it's starting on the grunt side of, you know, helping set A-frames before a game, or helping with activations of a game or whatever it might be. And then the other thing that I've been seeing is there's a lot of LinkedIn learning. There's a lot of different things that you can sharpen your skills right now. it might not be, you may be working in a job that you might not want to be in right away. In Ohio, I know that we list every day the jobs that are currently open because of what's happened. And, we have so many people that went on unemployment, but at the same time, there's 38,000 open jobs in Ohio right now that have been created because of what's happening. And like I said, it may not be in the field that you want to be in right now, but if you can get in somewhere and sharpen your skills, and if it's a sales skills and it's not in athletics, but you're sharpening your sales skill in some other avenue, don't be afraid to take that. Teach yourself how to do the sales or get some training on how to do the sales. You can implement a lot of that stuff over on into athletic sales. And it's like I said, I knew nothing about athletic sales, and they flew me down to Dallas and told me to pitch Ace Hardware, and here I am, and figuring it out. Like I said, I knew nothing about what I was doing. I worked the room, I owned the room. I understand relationships and the importance of relationships. So, and then if you're in a small community and you have that opportunity in a small community, don't be afraid to reach out to business owners and ask them, can I spend a little time and learn about your business? I'm not asking you to pay me. I'm not asking you for a job. I want to learn more about your business. I want to know what it is you do, and expand how deep you can take your roots in every industry, because really what we do, we really have to know what their business is. Everything from running a restaurant to selling a car to, a float spa to whatever it might be. I've got to understand what your product is so I know how to promote your product. And if you can expand your skill set on doing those things, I think that's huge right now. And if you've got the time, take it, do those things and learn about your local businesses in your town. And if you're able to, if it's digitally or whatever, shadow them, figure out how to, what it is that they're doing, read about businesses, things like that. I think that'll help you once you get into that arena of playing, in the sports arena, of figuring out, okay, I know what these businesses do. I know I followed them. I understand them. And I've got some sales skills because I worked at, Kroger, Meijer, Walmart, whatever it might be. And I was checking out people, and I built my personal skills interacting with people every single day when I was checking them out at the cash register, whatever it might be. Don't look at those jobs as remedial. Look at them as a stepping stone to help build your skill set for down the way.
Yeah, and what I love about that, it always sucks to work for free and doing internships. I did it, starting off, and that's really how you get in the sports world. Very few times can you just come directly into a paid position, maybe ticket sales, and that's where you just they throw you to the wolves when you go into ticket sales. But one thing is 100%. If you can't get a paid position, get either a paid or a free position that puts you into a position to where when you walk into interview one day, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, I was getting into sports, the pandemic hit. Then, I went to work for a chain of pizza restaurants, and, I helped them with inventory management. And let me tell you, the number one thing restaurants want in sponsorship is this. You think it's this, but it's this. I mean, that's here's your job offer right away, because I immediately what I'm hearing is I can put you on restaurants, you will go sell restaurants, and you'll be successful from day one, and I'll teach you the little things. So I think, really setting yourselves up, in the industry, if you're trying to get into especially sponsorship, and those jobs aren't open, literally do a Google search of the top 20 restaurants or top 20 businesses in your area, and just email out and say, hey, I just want to learn. I want to learn about the insurance industry, so that, just to understand the industry, and then you can come back to those properties and kind of say that. Running up on the end here, any questions you have for me, kind of on your end?
Yeah, so two things. One, we kind of tipped on it before we came on, but I wanted to get kind of your thoughts on, in the college world, this is a huge conversation piece for us right now, is eSports. We know that 70% of our college campuses, these kids are gaming. But I just wanted to kind of pick your brain and jam back and forth a little bit about what that looks like to you, future, current. What are the perks? What are the negatives on something like that?
Again, what esports is, that trendy thing to sell, right? Esports works. It grabs attention. Twitch is huge. what's always tough, like I'll equate esports to Snapchat, right? If you want to reach young people, you're on Snapchat, now you're on TikTok, or you're on esports because they're gaming. If you go onto Snapchat and don't make content that is for Snapchat followers, meaning it's a vertical screen and you're cutting this like wide thing in and barely putting something on the bottom, like that's going to be inauthentic and people won't engage with you. So I think first off is, as you're thinking about, hey, how am I going to engage with esports? Obviously there's running tournaments. Has your organization ever run a 2K tournament? What does that look like to make it authentic? And then on the flip side, how do you get a sponsor to brand that? I mean, you now have to educate people on esports in the same way. Like, I mean, to be honest, for the most part in sports sponsorship, we are masters at, in stadium experience advertising and now a little bit digital. But now you got to go to Papa John's franchisee and say, hey, look, here's how you're going to sell more pizzas through esports. And you better hope they don't know anything about esports because, the first question they ask you is, well, what's your Twitch following? And you're like, So I think, it's one of those things where if it's a fit and it should be on a college campus, definitely do it and do little acid tests, right? Like you don't have to do a grandioso, every person on campus does an esports tournament. I would literally get 2 coaches. I'd get like 2 grad assistant coaches who like game all night after they're working a 20-hour day for their coaches, and just say, we're just putting one grad assistant against the next. And it'd be interesting property to property. If you did like the grad assistant tournament, that's a very low acid test that you could say, hey, look, we'll add this on for a sponsor. We're going to get these 2 to kind of go at it and see which social channels it works best for, and then be able to go there. I think the tough thing will be, hey, we're into esports. We're going to do this huge tournament. We've never run a huge tournament. We don't really know how people react. And then they go do this huge thing and it's not successful. And then no sponsor ever buys from you. So I think more tactically, it's a great idea, and esports are popular, but I would never go sell a mortgage because I have, I would be like, you're going to be able to own a home and pay for a house. And then somebody says, cool, what forms do we have to have? And I'm like, that's a great question. I have no idea, but man, can you own this home? Right. So I think really, if you're going to sell esports and dive in on that, really try to understand what that means. Look at how other successful organizations are doing it. Use kind of I would say influencers within your organization. A grad assistant is by far not an influencer, but I would love to see the grad assistant, battle of, the grad assistant for soccer versus the grad assistant for football. I tune into that just because I have somewhat of a connection, run some little acid tests, and then be able to go to your partner, just because it's not saying that esports is like a fad, because it 100% isn't. The fad comes in. I hear it's like for us, like people are like, hey, why don't you do machine learning? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't build machine learning. I help people sell sponsorship. And they're like, yeah, but you could get so much more, it's such a trendy topic right now. You could just say machine learning and people will be interested. Well, yeah, until a machine learning, genius gets on the phone with me, and I'm like, to be honest, I don't even know. Is the machine, like, I know it's taking data and learning some stuff, and so I think that's the thing, is just really be authentic with the application, and then if I was doing it, do a really low test, see the numbers, and take baby steps. Don't go grandioso. Don't go grandioso tournament if you've never run an esports tournament. That's just going to be disaster for you.
Yeah. Then real quick, we didn't talk about this, but it came to my head while we've been sitting here chatting. What's your feeling on, we don't know what sports are going to look like, right? We could have fans. We might not have fans. We just don't know what it looks like. So radio advertisement right now, is that hot? Is that a topic right now? I mean, you've got your hardcore BGSU Falcon fans that want to, hear the game, see the game. They can't be there, so they're going to listen to it. Is that a good topic right now to talk to some of our partners on maybe an upsell that haven't had radio in the past and say, hey, listen, we're going to have sports, or we're hoping we're going to have sports, but the amount of attendance might look different. What does that look like?
That's it. I mean, it's going to matter the partner, right? Radio is the older demographic.
Right.
Here's the objections they're going to give you. Radio's older. It's not very trackable. No, and the probably the most anecdotal objection is nobody's in their car right now. Everybody's at home. Yep. And if you're listening at home, you're listening to Spotify and Pandora. So those are the objections you're going to get. I think, the big thing is going to be, if those are the objections you're going to get, then how do you position it to understand how it's going to be beneficial, right? Hey, don't forget there are essential workers driving to or in their car on that end. Radio can reach them there. Yeah. Also, what inventory do you have? Are you doing a talk show with the coach where it's only found on that radio stream?
Right. Yep.
And then flip side of that, I know a lot of radios have digital streams. Can we also magnify that with our Twitter following? So, gotcha. I'm selling you on both. I'm selling you on people can listen to the radio and they'll get great success, but I'm selling you also on the flip side of that, but it also will be on Twitter. And some people will buy the bundled package and not care about the radio side of it, but you're
gotcha.
Still buying both. So I think if you bundled it with the digital equivalent of, we're also going to post the talk show on, our Twitter, our Instagram for people to tune in, or the actual game on radio. It's just really how you tell that story. Okay. And then it's just the right partner. Some people are really going to care about, well, how many times can I, how many sales can I get from a radio ad?
Right.
Some partners are going to ask you that hardcore because they have a small budget and they have to see return. Some of the bigger partners, they're going to say, hey, yeah, we're trying to really, go higher on this and just do awareness advertising. And here's some of the other trackable sides. So I think,
cool.
I think that's the big thing, is just how you package it. I do think radio I don't think you can just do radio broadcast ads. This might be, and this might totally be different in Bowling Green, Ohio, because community wise, listening to the radio might be much bigger than any other. Right. I mean, like even just in Portland radio is still pretty big.
Yeah.
You go to the Bay Area and, nobody's, where I'm from, is nobody in their car, they're listening to their, their Bluetooth and,
exactly.
And, hopefully on iHeartRadio. So I think that's the big thing there is, it's just how you tell that story and how you package it. It's going to be an asset that's not going to be sexy on the top line.
Right.
But if you package it with your Twitter following, then it makes sense, because there's going to be a digital person somewhere there and they're going to tell you, well, radio ads are dead. Yeah, but we're also tweeting it. Okay, now we're boosting it.
Yeah.
We're doing good there.
It's a good idea. Thanks.
But that's one of those legacy inventory that you got to sell.
It's always there. It's how we started our business.
Yeah, it's like a lot of it is packaging stuff, and then getting that in, and then just finding the right partner who's, my bread and butter when selling restaurant ads were people who still believed in print advertising, and that was my biggest sale channel. Is if I knew you were still interested, and the best way I figured out if you're still interested, I would walk down to the visitor center in downtown Portland and pick up every visitor guide. And if you ran an ad in that guide, that means you believe in it somewhat, and you're top of my list for prospecting. So, I mean, some people are really going to believe in that medium. Others aren't. If you can package it with the digital side, it's going to be easier toward their goal on that side.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, cool. Thanks so much for jamming with me this morning.
Awesome.
If anybody wants to, get a hold of you or learn more about the Meals for Hero program, what's the best way to kind of check out Bowling Green? Check you guys out.
Yeah. So www.bgsufalcons.com. It's right there on the main page. When you click on it, you can click right on there. It takes you right to our FIBO. donation page, and people can hop on there, make a donation, and we'd love to have donations from all over the country. I think it'd be kind of cool. So, but yeah, so we're out there ready to go, and our goal was 250 meals the first week, and here we are at 600 after 48 hours. So
Nice.
This is taken off for us a little bit. So we're excited, and I called the owner of the little pizza shop here in town that he's the first week, and he's like, I'm going to be able to bring back a couple staff and help this out for a week or two and get them on the payroll. And so that's great. So I was like, good.
And that's why we do it, right? That's like people think sponsorship sales is driving revenue. It's not. That you're going to get more value out of being able to say, I helped them stay open.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, that was a couple $1,000 deal that came in. So
yeah, exactly.
When I sold restaurant ads, my favorite clients were our smaller ones, because I knew that even if I drove 10 people there, that's going to help them. So love that. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for jumping on. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll definitely chat soon.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah.